In this video, we're going to be comparing and contrasting two Nike daily trainers, the Nike Vomero 16 and the Zoomfly 4. Let's talk about them. So before we get into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're already subscribed to this channel, watching content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Here's the specs for both shoes respectively. So, the reason we're doing this comparison video is one, it's kind of been requested a few times to me. And also, it's going to be an interesting video to do in the sense that these are both shoes that came out in about 2021, 2022. And in the grand scheme of daily training, both of them do have a utility in your training. But as to what scale and what runs you should be using them for, it's kind of dependent on, obviously, your schedule. So I guess we're going to start with the Zoomfly 4 general specs, of course. The shoe does weigh approximately 9.6, 9.7 ounces in this size. It does have a 31 millimeter forefoot, 39 millimeter heel, giving it that 9 to 8 millimeter offset, which is a higher, of course, it's a higher stack height to begin with, and you have a little bit of that heel to toe ratio, which gives you more of that forefoot strike. So it's kind of a nice impact in this shoe overall. In the general specs of the Vomero 16, we do have a heel that's approximately like 29 and a half, and then it's like 18 and a half in the forefoot, and this gives it, again, very close to about a 10 millimeter offset. So more of that toe strike, but still kind of the same concept in terms of trying to get that forefoot area to be your strike point in this shoe. And even if you're a heel striker, you still have a lot of heel area to kind of work around with in that particular case. So that's the general specs lining them both. Actually, one more. The Vomero 16, I believe, weighs about like 10.1, 10.2 ounces. So it's just a smidgen heavier than the Zoomfly 4. That's probably the other piece to note there. So let's move on to some other general specs to obviously compare and contrast. Let's talk about technologies. So in the Zoomfly 4, we have a React foam just going all the way across, and we do have a carbon plate that's basically sandwiched in the foam. Now, this is not a new style technology setup for Nike in any sort of sense. In the old Zoomflies and like the Flyknit version of the Zoomfly that has come out, I believe it was like 2017, 2018. This was the standard build for the racing shoe before it rolled into like the Zoom X that we have for like the Vaporfly and the Alpha Fly as we speak now. So they took the old model, they've generated it to be the more of the, the Vaporfly Next Percent design, and then they just threw in, this Flyknit meshed upper on top with like 2 layers of mesh and kind of a, some textile, more or less realistically just going around the shoe. And that's what we've kind of got now. But now, in terms of impacts and things going on in this shoe, the carbon plate it's not stiff. I think it's just because with the React design and the carbon plate in tandem with the shoe, it can feel stiff at times. And I know at the very beginning when I was running with this, there was a lot of flex and it was really fun. But as time went on, the shoe did start losing a bit of its, I guess it didn't lose the flex, but it was getting a little bit tougher to really push into this shoe and kind of get the results I wanted. That also, and I was pretty much just shredding the outsole on both shoes, as you can really see. And then that's going to put a damper when you can no longer grip into the ground, essentially just, grabbing into any sort of concrete or road you're running into to get that rebound, because if the shoe is just slipping, you just don't get that rebound anymore. So that's why you do have to change your shoes out once they begin looking like this. And for the record, I have officially retired this particular pair of Zoomfly 4s. They are over 400 plus miles. I kind of still use them at the gym to walk around and do things like that. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on here with the Zoomfly 4. Now, in the Vomero 16, it uses a whole different foam that isn't React or Zoom X. I'll actually list it here once I remember the name of it. It's a different kind of compound that's somewhere about in the middle here, but yeah, it's a very soft foam, and I think it just, it gives you like this React feel without being as, I guess the word I'm looking for is as aggressive, but it's like almost like a pillow, kind of like a Hoka One One style kind of drop, the marshmallow pillow feel that you'd be looking for. in a shoe that's supposed to be a distance trainer. So in this particular case, the technology again is using this style foam with the Air Zoom pocket technology here in the forefoot area. And I guess in a little bit of a tangent, opposed to like the Pegasus 37 and 38, it feels like this Air Zoom pocket has been pushed a little bit more up closer to the forefoot rather than this midfoot area where it can kind of give you some sort of soreness and kind of dull feeling in the shoe. So something to note in this particular case. And yeah, the upper, again, there's a lot of different moving pieces in the mesh textile area. The shoelace area does have a lot of more textile, and it is kind of tricky to get a grip, not a grip, but a lock in this particular shoe in this area. So again, things to worry about when you're running in this particular shoe is getting the lock kind of sorted out, getting the pillow tongue in a place where it's comfortable on your foot. The heel guard is nice, not necessary in my opinion, but it does kind of help keep that heel area kind of secured. But again, the major thing to consider with the shoe is not really so much the stiffness, but getting the lock sorted out so your foot's not moving around a lot and you don't kind of tamper with how your impact on the ground is really rebounding with the Air Zoom pocket. So if you've been watching these videos before, you probably have a good idea as to the utility for both shoes respectively. Now, it's not to say that you couldn't use the shoes in, you know, their respective cases during your daily or speed runs. It's just, I think, at least in my opinion and my experience, this is where the shoes will shine best for you. So, starting with the Zoom Fly 4, I think the general consensus, and at least from my experience, is that when you have more of your speed workout or something that requires a little more, I guess a little bit less distance, more speed, this is probably your go-to shoe, mostly because of how much spring you're getting out of it, the efficiency with the carbon plate, and like, you know, the React pretty much protecting your foot, but also considering how stiff the shoe is as a result of the rebound being, I guess, so aggressive and so reactive in the shoe. It should be for a shorter run that isn't going to exceed, at least in my personal case, I'm not going to tell you what a short run is necessarily, but in this particular case, when I was using the shoe, I would never exceed 7 miles in it. But like the average run would be somewhere between 4 to 6, maybe, you know, a 10K in there, so 6.2. I've never exceeded 7 or wanted to exceed 7 in this shoe, and I think for good reason I never did. And some days if I did push it close to that 7 mile per run kind of distance, I would feel that soreness in my peroneal tendons and like the fibula areas respectively for the shoe, because of how the carbon plate is effectively hitting my forefoot and kind of traveling up the ankle. Rather than obviously hurting my knees, it's kind of more in this ankle area. And also I do kind of have this supination in the carbon plate shoe, and that's also kind of not helping my fibula areas. Now, the Vomero 16, however, this is a shoe that I believe you could easily take on a distance run. And it's not to say you couldn't run fast or have your speed workout in this, because I have done some really fast workouts on treadmills in this particular shoe, and the Air Zoom pocket will keep up with you to like a pretty good extent. But the shoe, I think overall in its current design and, you know, its structural width at the very least in the forefoot would tell me that this shoe is probably more for your like everyday to mid-speed type of run, and you can take it from any distance from like 1 mile to, I would say you can probably take it to a 20-mile run if you really wanted to. I think that's what the Vomero class of shoe really is looking for, is to have this particular shoe be the distance runner in your shoe grouping that is also able to go fast if you want to go fast. Now, in obviously, again, in my personal experiences with both shoes respectively, the Zoom Fly 4 definitely is the faster shoe than the Vomero 16, but again, the technology wise, it is kind of apples and oranges, considering, you know, Air Zoom pocket in the Vomero 16, carbon plate with React foam in the Zoom Fly 4. Definitely take note of the different technologies that are being used in both shoes respectively, and obviously if you don't really follow the videos I have on this channel, that is kind of a hard thing to be wary of, but again, that's just the main difference in terms of technologies and where your utility for the shoes would be respectively. Now, if I had a budget consideration and I had to pick one of these shoes, like, you know, I just couldn't buy both and I had to consider one, I'd probably still lean for the Vomero 16, not necessarily because you know, it's got a longer lifespan than the Zoom Fly 4, but also because it is a lot more of a comfortable shoe. And like, based on my current training, where like I am in this kind of triathlon, 70.3, you know, and then just regular road run marathon kind of sessions, I would rather take the shoe that can last a little bit longer and keep me more at a stable, steady pace than the shoe that would be more for the speed workouts that would get me to like maximum 6 miles. Also, this shoe, I think at the time that I bought it, I got a pretty good deal for it. It might have been 160, 170 bucks when I bought it, and I think it was like retail listed for 200. And then Vomero 16 is about 160, as I recall. But regardless of pricing, I would probably still lean more towards the Vomero 16 in this case. So I think I'm going to end the video here in terms of my thoughts with both shoes. I really do like both shoes, especially when I was still using the Zoom Fly 4. The first half of the lifespan with this shoe and having like a broken, at least a stress fracture in like my fibula. This is a really comfortable shoe to run in and train with. And then once I started rolling into the marathon training, the Vomero 16 was also a boatload of fun to have and just use on a daily basis. So yeah, I'll end the video here. If you agree or disagree with the comparison or have different experiences with the shoes, definitely let me know in the comments below. Let's discuss. So I will end the video here. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.